It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to ParaTruth. What's going on, ParaTruthers? Welcome to another ParaTruth Reborn. This is a pre-recorded show on 107.7 FM New Orleans and United Public Radio Network. My name is Justin, and today we're revisiting our episode from ParaTruth Radio entitled In Our Dreams. So I'm going to go to the show, and I hope you all enjoy. Let's jump into some stuff here, because before we get on topic, I want to bring up a couple of things. And the first thing is all paranormal related, by the way, folks. But I texted you earlier today, as of this recording, because it was about possibly seeing ghosts. At first, I wasn't sure, right? So like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was driving down a main road a couple cities over, and I saw this guy walking down the street. It was a nicer day, but he had like a long black trench coat, blue jeans, white sneakers, and wearing dark rounded sunglasses, round frame sunglasses. It was kind of weird. It was weird to be dressed that way in such a nice day, but okay. I drive past him. I maybe go about 30 seconds or so, not even, maybe 20 seconds, and I look in my rearview mirror and he's gone. And I turn around and look back because I stop at a red light and he's gone. He's not there. I'm like, he looked like a vampire. He just, knew what vampires do and disappear. Anyway, today, as of this recording, I looked outside my living room window and there's this guy walking up the street, kind of hunched over, moving kind of fast. Blue, I think it was like a dark blue jeans, kind of tattered, wearing a brown coat with a hood over his head, also brown and tattered. He was there moving fast, and as soon as I saw him, I just kind of walked into my kitchen, turned on the faucet to grab a drink, and looked out my window and realized that he wasn't like walking past the other window. Like he should have been there by now. So I wait for a second, 2 seconds. I go to look outside and he's nowhere to be found. I looked all the way up the street and he's nowhere up the street. He's nowhere on my side of this. He just vanished, and there's nowhere to go unless he turned around immediately and went the other way for some reason. But then I started thinking, what if I'm starting to see ghosts for some reason? Like a veil is being lifted, and I don't know why. I haven't been like trying to lift a veil or allow myself to see these things. But then last night, I was sleeping, and you don't know this yet, but I was sleeping, and it's been a while since I've had any sort of weird disturbance while sleeping. Mm-hmm. But last night, I woke up to this weird scraping or almost like clawing on the corner of my house, on the aluminum siding at the corner of my bedroom. And it freaked me out because I like jumped out of bed. I thought someone was breaking in. And as soon as I jumped out of bed, it's just stopped. And I was like, well, that's really weird. Like, what the hell? And nothing happened for another couple minutes. So I lay back down and go back to sleep. And all of a sudden, there it is again. It wakes me up out of my sleep. And I hear it as I'm laying there. And it takes me a moment or two to process. And then I jump up. And as soon as I do, it just stops. Nothing again. So I don't know if it's one of those, like, those in between sleep stages, like a paralysis or a dream that's like, crossing over into my reality, making it feel like it's real when it was really just a dream, or something else. My siding was fine this morning when I checked. There's no damage or anything like that. But then I was thinking about it because I was telling, I was telling someone that I'm dating, and I was like, I started thinking, I said, wait a second, like, I was laying on my stomach, and on my left side of my face was on a pillow, and I only heard the noise coming out from my right ear, not my left.
And even though my face was there, I should have heard some sort of muffled sound.
Mhm.
And I started thinking, what if it was something trying to speak to me? Like, I don't know what, angelic or otherwise, but I couldn't understand what it was saying, because if it's from another world or whatever, or, another universe or plane, maybe it was just coming off as this scratchy, metallic, twisting sound to me, because it didn't know how to communicate in a human language, English in this case.
I mean, I guess that's possible, but from everything I've seen and heard and experienced myself, if something is trying to talk to you, spirit guides, angels, whatever, you're going to have like the tinnitus sound in your ear, ringing in your ears. I've heard people say right side is angel, left side is spirit guides. I've heard from Katie Turner that her message is right side's good, left side is bad. So let's debunk this a little bit first. So we'll talk about the people that are there and disappeared. I'm not saying that you didn't experience this, because I think I've told you this story and I've shared this on other people's story. When I was in my teens and going through the depression that I was and starting to go see a psychiatrist, I saw somebody that was in, I would say, 1800s garb walking down our street on Grassmere in Maple Heights. And I looked away, I looked back, they were gone. And so when I was filling out the form for the psychiatrist, it asks, do you see things that aren't there? And I checked yes. And my mom was like, what? I'm like, Mom, I saw somebody that was on the street in like old time garb, and then they just disappeared. And she's like, you can't say that. They'll think you're crazy. I'm like, but I saw it. Right. I saw it. And she's like, no, don't put that down. Put no. And she's a believer, but she knew other people wouldn't be. So the guy that you drove by, was he moving relatively at a fast pace, or was he just kind of
normal, just like a normal pace, like someone taking a stroll down the street? So yeah, I don't know. It was weird. And this guy today at my house, or across the street from my house, it was raining outside, so his head was like bowed down, and he was kind of moving at a fast pace, maybe because of the rain. But again, it was just one of those things where I probably would have thought nothing of it, except for I saw him through my living room window. Then I moved to my kitchen, and he should have passed that window, and he didn't. And even if I was unaware and he did, there's no way he would have made it as far up the street as I could see from my window. There's no way. So unless he cut through somebody's yard, I don't know. Like, I'd never seen, at least the way he was dressed and stuff, I'd never seen this person before on this street. Okay.
My question was going to be, would it have been possible that he crossed the street and got into a house, one of the houses across the street from you?
Well, I mean, it's possible, but I know those houses, and this person would not have been going to any of those that I know of, at least. Maybe the one directly catty corner to me, but even then, I know the people come and go from there. And this person, they all have cars. Like, no one just walks up and goes in there. So, and if they do walk, they have a dog with them. Okay. So I don't know who this. Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was just weird. It was one of those things where it took me a moment. I was like, wait a minute. Like, this is different. Like, I haven't seen this before. But then combining that with what I heard last night then, and again, I don't know what that could just be a dream or whatever. I don't know. It was just very vivid, and it crossed into my reality. But the fact that as soon as it jumped up, it stopped, might have been dream, something.
It's funny to bring that up because as of late, as my spiritual understanding has started to evolve a bit, it seems like every time that I eat candy, I will be laying down to sleep or kind of in that twilight sleep, and I'll hear this huge bang, like something hit the house. And I jump and wake up, and Shelly's not affected by whatever it is I heard at all.
Right.
And so I don't know, like, same thing. Am I hearing something in my dream and it's waking me up? Is something else, trying to communicate, crossing over, and then it wakes me up, but it's a boom, not a voice or the ringing in the ears like I have a lot of times. So that is interesting that it stopped when you woke up and then continued when you laid back down. Now, do you remember anything you were dreaming at all?
No. Like this morning, I was thinking I did dream something, but it had nothing. Like, it's one of those things where as soon as I woke up, I knew I was dreaming and I knew what I was dreaming of. But, after a couple hours, it's just. But what I do know is that the dream that I was having did not relate to the sound that I woke up to.
That's right. And about werewolves or anything.
No. I don't think it was any. I don't even think it was a nightmares. I don't know. But anyway, the good thing is, at least all this little conversation here at the beginning of the show, folks, is that it ties into what we're actually going to be talking about in our topic in some way. And that is whether or not dreams can manifest or have some sort of effect on reality, and also whether or not those dreams in reality are existent due to some sort of parallel universe or can produce some sort of parallel universe or timeline or Earth or whatever you want to call it. Now, I was having a conversation the other day, and we were talking about just this, dreams and whether or not what we dream has any meaning to it. Like, are dreams just dreams and that's it? Is it something of the unconscious, the subconscious trying to reach out, and whether or not what we're dreaming is somehow related to our reality? Like, can we think of dream interpretation, for example? That's just an example, but also you tie that into deja vu. And some people think deja vu could just be a memory of a dream that we had or something similar. Whereas, I believe in some cases that the dream is something that actually happened, that I've experienced or witnessed because I've been able to predict the events that happen after I have the deja vu moment. There's still others, ourselves included, I think, who think that maybe deja vu or even dreams are memories of a parallel version of ourselves living on another timeline. And so there's this idea that every single thought that we have, basically the blue pill, red pill type of thing, whichever pill you take, there's another version of you that immediately splits off and takes the other pill. Left or right, we choose to go left. Another version of us splits off and goes right. That type of thing. Same with those weird, which is one of those odd things that we've talked about in the past, I think, as well, is those weird moments that humans have where it's like, there's a name for it, where it's like you have this idea, this vivid moment where you think of, oh, I'm driving down the road and, hey, there's this pole. What if I just swerved into it and just, got smashed to smithereens or whatever? That moment that you thought about that, a version of you split off and did just that. And that version of you stopped. Its life ended, but you continued on to your road because you didn't do it in reality. So obviously it's crazy to think about. It's hard to wrap your mind around. But the big question is, can dreams and deja vu determine reality or work alongside reality and ultimately create some sort of parallel universe? And can they all be interconnected in some way?
Right. Well, and when I told Shelly what we were talking about, she kind of felt like being left out of the conversation because she's been telling me as of late that certain dreams, she feels like she's looking into the 10th dimension,
Okay.
or experiencing an alternate reality.
Mm.
And I can't tell her that she's wrong, because nobody knows what really is going on when we dream, other than science will say that it's your subconscious trying to tell you things, or there's a part of your life that you're worried about, so you're trying to work it out in your dreams rather than in waking time, because you have the id, the ego, and your conscious brain telling you it was just a dream, nothing to worry about there. And some of the dreams she's been having as of late are about her dad who passed last year. So I think that's partly why she's getting the feeling that she's feeling, that may not necessarily the 10th dimension, even though she thinks the 10th dimension is what we would consider heaven. Good possibility, but we don't know that either. So she's been really feeling that more times than not, she's having dreams about either alternate realities or alternate dimensions.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all had those dreams that are either so real that you wake up and you're hyperventilating pretty much because it was that real. You mentioned, when you drive by a certain point, and you just randomly have the thought of ending it all, or you're just getting kind of anxious about that particular location. There are people that believe that when you have that happen, that actually happened in another reality and you're having the memory of it, because there are a lot of people that are saying now, even in science, that there are realities that are converging because certain realities collapse for whatever reason. So, and I was thinking about looking up some research on this, and I just found a couple of pieces here and there, but there's nothing definitive on this or scientifically experimented with per se.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, and you're right. Who's to say that you can't see into a 10th dimension or whatever it is, and whatever the 10th dimension is? But I think so. There's this, obviously we've talked about how, or there's a strong belief that humans basically only use about 10% of their brain, right? And if they were to unlock the other 90%, they'd basically be godlike in some sense. And so, I keep jumping back to this idea that the reason some dreams are crazy, weird, maybe like things that just don't mesh with the reality, is that when we're asleep, there's no filter to block out that 90% that doesn't work when we're in our waking state. So while we're asleep, it's possible that a higher percentage of our brain is actually active and is capable of actually moving through time and space in some way. Obviously not in a physical sense, but in a mental state, spiritual sense even. And there is a belief that if you are able to unlock some of that potential in your brain or within your mind, you would have, or we would have, the ability to traverse light years if we wanted to, through various dimensions, walking forward and backward through time. And of course, that's all speculation. But seeing that more and more people, and especially since it's happening so close to home, in terms of you, I, the people that we know, friends, family, etc., are starting to experience things like this, it just makes it more of a reality, I think, that there's this possibility that either A, we are capable of unlocking something, or that something has happened or is happening within our Earth or our solar system, our universe, that is starting to thin the veil between time, space, and the spiritual world. And now even those who are not believers necessarily, or those who just don't, play like we do within this world, are starting to see things and understand things that they previously could not see or understand because it was completely closed off to them. And now it's starting to open for some reason.
Well, and stop me if you've heard about this, or I'll even ask it first. Have you heard about the Great Awakening?
Yeah, I mean, bits and pieces of it.
Well, there's a lot of people that believe since 2020, especially, we've been in the era of the Great Awakening. A lot more people coming to realization that our reality is not the only reality. That paranormal activity does exist. Look at a lot of the things we've talked about over the past couple weeks about all the strange crap that happened all at once. And what a lot of people are saying they believe is happening is we're preparing for the Great Awakening because the Earth is trying to split, and one Earth is going to go into the fifth dimension and the other Earth is going to stay here in this reality. Mm-hmm. And, what a lot of people believe from the Christian perspective of the rapture, the ones that believe in the rapture, this is kind of that moment. And that's what is happening when the Earth splits into two and the second one goes into the fifth dimension. And a lot of people are talking about, depending on your vibrational level, will determine if you stay here or if you go with the new Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, and that's, again, it's another thing that just goes along with these interesting theories, mm-hmm. I guess, because ultimately it's all theory. And so we've got so many people from different backgrounds, within their walks. Some are saying, yes, this thing between these Earth is like splitting, almost like you would think of a cell splitting or separating. Mm-hmm. Earth is doing the same thing, and you'll have these two. And then with that said, there's this belief that basically that second Earth that people who are on a higher frequency remain on is going to be as if it's a heavenly body, much like we see within many of the world's religions. Whereas on the other side is kind of a version of hell. Now, not in the biblical sense, but in the sense that we continue to live life as we currently see it and live it here in our reality. Which is hard to say in our reality because who knows what reality is anymore with all this craziness happening. I don't know. It is definitely pretty crazy to think about. And I think as more and more exploration happens within our known universe, and even as we continue to search for the unknown in our universe, we're going to continue to unlock more and more. And I think it's, thinking back scripturally, think of like the Tower of Babel, right? So there was this moment in time, or at least a story that says there's a moment in time where the Earth's people together decided to create this tower to the heavens to try to reach God. And at that moment, God didn't like it because they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so he just separated humanity and placed them in all these different places throughout the earth. And at that moment, new languages were born. And we suddenly had these different populations, different languages all over the earth. And, thinking about it now, it's like, what if, because they're building that, and not that they would have ever actually reached heaven, but building that, the closer they got to what is considered heaven, the more knowledge and understanding they had. And that was something that was prohibited. And so the further that humanity reaches into the distance of outer space, the closer we get to that spiritual realm, that the heavens, and so we start to build this knowledge unknowingly. And it's like the closer the further out we go, the more humanity's mind kind of opens up and souls kind of open up to this other realm. And based on all the things that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks too, it's very possible, like more and more of these UFO sightings, for example, which is something that is biblically speaking, people talk about UFOs. Now, maybe they're not extraterrestrials, but they were things that were unidentified. Right. I was just watching a documentary last night about the Bermuda Triangle, or at least it showed the Bermuda Triangle. Christopher Columbus when he was sailing down in the Bermuda Triangle, he marked in his diary, in his notebook, that he saw lights hovering over the ocean. Like, that's crazy. That's like that's insane to think about.
Yeah.
Way back then, and now here we are seeing the same type of thing still happening, and we're not really any closer to the truth, but there are more and more people awakening to it.
Right. Well, I know we've talked on CERN a couple of times in different episodes, but some of the stuff that CERN has been experimenting with, and I don't remember if this was CERN or if there was another experiment going on where there was a scientist or scientists who said we actually have discovered a window into another reality or the past. They weren't sure. Mm-hmm. And so what if these experiments that we're doing, any of the experiments, CERN, other scientists, whatever, are ripping holes in space-time, and that's where a lot of this stuff is coming from.
I mean, it's very possible. I mean, then it's no different than what we talk about when we think about opening doors in the spiritual realm. You open this window, this door, whatever, and you let things in that you're not prepared for, that you don't expect. And if they're doing the same thing on a universal scale, it's possible. Who knows what's going to come through. And of course, also on top of that, you consider how large, how expansive the universe is. I'm not going to sit here and say, maybe at one point I would have, but I'm not going to sit here and say that, well, it's impossible for extraterrestrials to live, something beyond our Earth to live, to exist, because God created humans only, according to Scripture. But then that's to put so much limitation on God's power and ability to create whatever he wants. And people think, God, he wouldn't create these things because he's all for humanity. So, but how do you know he's only for humanity? Like, he gave us, a direction to him, but that doesn't mean he can't create other beings. That's like saying, he didn't create dinosaurs. We have all this evidence of dinosaurs, but he didn't create them because we didn't see them with our own eyes.
Right.
It just doesn't work that way. And so if that's the case, there's certainly possibility that these other entities have the ability, the technology, to traverse through these gateways that we are just now starting to unlock via exploration of the universe, of space. And they've been doing it for millennia, for all we know, back and forth. And just now are they really starting to show more interest in Earth for one reason or another. I think, I do believe, obviously I believe in extraterrestrials, and I think it's only a matter of time before we have some definitive proof of them. But I think that proof isn't going to come from, the Earthlings, from our governments or whatever. They won't be the one to spill the beans. I think it'll be one of those things where the entities themselves make themselves known.
Well, I've heard a couple people that I'll say claim to be able to communicate with extraterrestrials.
Well, we've had someone on.
Oh, right.
Okay,
yeah.
So,
well, I'm just saying claimed because, again, first off, we haven't had them on our show. Secondly, who knows what they're communicating with. But two separate people that I've seen do videos about it have said that their contacts have told them that the UFOs or unidentified objects that were shot down a couple of weeks ago were not them. That were our governments, our higher ups are trying to make us believe that extraterrestrials are trying to invade or trying to come to Earth. Right. And that not to believe it, there's going to be a time of great stress, but everybody will live through it. It's not a world-ending cataclysmic event or, a world war or anything like that is going to kill a very good portion of the population of the world. So it's interesting that people are getting messages like that when, pretty much everybody, it's kind of split down the middle. Either you do believe that these things were extraterrestrial in nature and that the government's lying to us, or you're saying that it's not and it's another government, our government, whatever, that is doing this.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, I want to tie all this into the dream aspect because we haven't really talked about dreams yet in this matter. But obviously, there's a lot of theory as to how some of these beings communicate with these people that you're talking about. And in many cases, they're communicating via dreams. And so we're seeing if it's real, if they're really getting some sort of messages from these extraterrestrial entities, then that's where we have reality meshing with dream. They're kind of with dreams that coexist. Right. But it goes beyond that because then, that's one thing talking about or getting messages from extraterrestrial entities or spiritual beings, angelic or otherwise. But then we have this idea of the dreams themselves that we have. Like we have so many dreams that we wake up from and we question, like, well, does that mean something? Like, is this, like that was a weird dream. Like, what does it mean? Is it a prediction of the future or, is it just a fear of mine or this or that, and I think there isn't nearly enough evidence to support the idea that having a certain dream is either a manifestation of our current reality or a premonition of a reality yet to come. But with that said, I do think this idea of deja vu meshes possibly with the dreams that we have because we have so many dreams that we don't remember.
Right.
There's a possibility that we're dreaming these events and then they kind of happen. And we think it's deja vu, and in reality, maybe we're just that deja vu is recalling a memory from a dream that we had months, years, maybe just last night that we didn't know about, and suddenly it's like maybe the dreams are telling us something. Obviously, I think deja vu is very minuscule. Half the stuff that we all have deja vu about is meaningless. They're just random, moments. I think. So nothing significant, but then again, who knows? It's so hard to wrap your head around the idea of deja vu and dreams, but I do think there's a possibility that they tie together.
Right. Oh, and there are people that will say that this reality is the dream as well. That I've heard this from actually quite a few people that they think that this is not our reality. This is a dream, or this is a we've heard the simulation theory. Yeah. But that when we dream, we're actually shutting the quote unquote simulation off and going back to our regular reality. And that's where the dreams come from, which I don't know how well I believe that, because some of my dreams have been so messed up that I don't think that, I'm checking out of this reality, because some of them are even worse than this reality.
Oh, for sure. And then, because, then what's the point of, or how do you differentiate nightmares from dreams? Right. If those are the reality you're living when you're sleeping, and it doesn't make sense at all, unless that's just one really messed up Earth that we're living on in some world. Man, I think I don't know. It's pretty crazy. I had a thought and it kind of lost me for a moment there. It did lose me entirely. I lost it. And so not for a moment, it's gone. So this is why I just paused for a moment there. Darn, it was something. you know, those moments you know, it's like you have the thought as you're like in this case, as you're talking, and then as you continue, I try to focus back on what you're saying, and then it's like beep 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 beep. No, don't let go, Jack. I'll never let go. You know, you can't both sit on the door. Squirrel, you and your memory. Yeah. Matrix. Oh, I remembered it. Boom, it came back.
Yeah.
It's alive. Okay. So jumping to this Matrix thing. I was driving down the roads. Okay, again, weird stuff has been happening to me lately, folks. So I was driving down the road the other day. There were two turkey vultures on the side of the road enjoying what I assume was a carcass of a raccoon. Okay. As I was driving towards them, they were both just standing still, head up, at the exact same time. Literally the exact same time. They both bowed their head and started eating at the exact same time. Like it was, most people probably would think nothing of it, but it was weird. Like two creatures that supposedly, according to science, don't know how to think because, you know, animals don't think. They don't have that type of ability. But at the same time, they both bow down and start eating. And immediately, obviously, I jump to, oh my God, glitch, right? There's a glitch in the Matrix. They both did it at the same time. But then it also made me think of, well, these are thinking beings that just happen to resonate at the same moment and frequency in both, you know, and of course, saying resonate and frequency and all that is just another word of saying they had the same thought at the same time.
Right.
But it was something that was interesting and immediately had me start thinking about these other glitch moments within the Matrix that people have talked about over the years. There was another one that was witnessed by, I think I was there, and then my sister, of course, witnessed it. Both my sisters. And it was during an NBA game. And you can find this online, actually, if you look up probably like NBA glitch or something, where there are 3 or 4 players. They all stopped and turned in the same exact direction on the same exact access, all at the exact same time. And people, the internet just blew up. Like, what? How does that happen? And so if we were living in a matrix of some sort, you know, this idea of some sort of alternate reality, then have been plenty of evidence that can kind of support it. But I do think that evidence needs to be manipulated a little bit in order to help prove the theory. And matrices are weird. We've been talking about dreams, how they interact or mesh with reality, and how that can connect to a parallel universe. So with that said, let's kind of connect all the dots, because, you know, we've talked about dreams and deja vu, how they can, you know, maybe have some sort of connection to our reality or our either our current reality. You know, basically dreams are manifested based on how we're currently viewing our life situations or whatever, or are connected to a future moment in time that we're predicting, and hence the reason deja vu exists. We're recalling a memory that we had during our sleep. How does this relate then or connect to the parallel universe? And I know we've brushed on that a little bit at the beginning of the episode, but I think there is this possibility, assuming that in the parallel universe, the timeline runs straight. And so if it's 5 o'clock here, it's 5 o'clock there, and it's 5 o'clock on the parallel universe next to that one, and so on and so forth for an infinite amount of time.
Right.
And as we move forward, those universes or parallel universes move forward as well. Nothing's moving backward. And so is it possible then that as we're dreaming, we are now suddenly have the ability, maybe by unlocking that other 90% or a part of that other 90% of the brain that we don't use, suddenly able to connect with and communicate with those alternate or parallel universes and versions of ourselves that we have no access to or connection with during our waking moments?
Or are we creating these alternative realities just by dreaming?
I mean, you have to go any deeper. Like, we're already pretty deep, man.
Well, I mean, we've talked about in conscious reality, we form our own reality and our own existence. Who's to say that stops when we go to sleep?
Right. No, I mean, you're not wrong. And there's this relates in some sense, I think, but there's this idea throughout time. And this is both spiritually speaking. I know the Bible talks about it, and I know there's plenty of other theologians and just people who are artists and otherwise who have came up with it or who have stated this. And it's the idea that whatever you want to manifest, believe that you've manifested it. Believe that you have it. In the scripture, it's prayer. Whatever you are praying for, believe you've already received it, and it'll be given to you. And so, what if whether in dream state or otherwise, we are basically manifesting these moments in time, like you said, to create these parallel universes that we don't know about, or are manifesting what's happening or going to happen to our futures, in our futures. There's a reason, I think, why people say when you want to dream about something, for example, something specific, you should what is it? All I can think is replay, but continuously reiterate whatever it is you want to dream about in your mind or out loud as you fall asleep.
Oh, yep. A lot of people talk about that for communicating with your spirit guides and whatnot.
Right. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like if you want to manifest something in reality, you constantly focus on it, think of it, dream of it. You need to put all of your energy in it because and this is something that you see not only in the world's biggest religions, but you see it within the occult as well. You see it within witchcraft. The whole idea of manifestation is to put energy into something and put so much energy into it that you manifest it by sheer will, which is very, very hard to do. It's not something that you just go out and do on a regular basis. This is something that is very difficult to achieve. But there is that belief that if you put enough energy out there, it can create a reality that you want to manifest within yourself, within your own world, or within maybe these other timelines. We don't really know. If that goes back to even when we were talking about, Slender Man and all that stuff, the idea of mass hysteria and mass, the belief of the masses in which so much energy goes into an entity that you create that entity. It just appears when it shouldn't. It shouldn't exist. But why does that happen? How does that happen? And again, could that be part of the whole Matrix thing? Could it be that we're living in some sort of computerized universe where when we think up these ideas, they digitally appear? I mean, I don't know.
So I'm going to bring up something too of how this reality affects our dreams, because I don't think I had told you about this dream I had, but you told me about a dream that you had shortly after the unidentified objects were shot out of the sky. You had a dream about UFOs. Mm-hmm. And then it was at least 3 or 4 days later after you had mentioned that to me that I had a dream about walking side by side next to other extraterrestrials of different species, and they were just a part of daily life. So that's the other really major factor in this whole scheme of things is, and it's going to just confuse everybody. I'm sure it's going to confuse us too. Like this reality affecting our dreams. Does that mean we are looking into an alternate reality? Our antenna, as it were, was just focused on that reality since it's happening in this one?
I mean, obviously, in theory, yes. That's possible, right? Why not? Who's to say no? There's no way to scientifically test that yet. At least we don't have the technology. Maybe somebody else does. But we're not there yet.
Right.
But a dream like that is interesting to me because, again, is that a manifestation of what you would hope for when there is eventually full disclosure, that basically we can coexist with these extraterrestrials, the various types that we know of, at least, again, in theory. Or I wouldn't say, I mean, in this case, I don't think it's the case for you, obviously, because your dream was about coexisting, but some people will have these dreams in fear of something as well, and maybe in fear of coexisting. People don't like change. Humans would rather just stay around here. Well, I think most humans actually would rather stay around animals, but, despite that, I think a lot of people don't want these other alien species coming here too, because then, let's face it, I mean this is about to get weird, folks, but it's also a fact, because humans are disgusting. But if aliens came here and started to coexist, there would be a lot of weird breeding issues and manifesting or creating other hybrid creatures, whether they're called humans or whatever. It would get weird, and we start seeing people with tentacles or something. I don't know. And that could be a problem as well, that people don't, problem as in people won't be able to understand it or even have trouble existing with something like that. I mean, it's bad enough. And I don't it's ridiculous how horrible there are people, like, think of racism, think of how people are prejudiced towards certain individuals because of beliefs or how they live their lives, it's their sexual orientation. And, there are plenty of people who would think of, oh, great, just what we need are these, extraterrestrials coming in, not only visiting, but then coexisting with us. Well, there are others of us who would love that. I mean, I would love to be able to coexist with them, but like, dude, what did you see? Like, what is out there, And maybe at some point we get the ability to become such good friends that they take us off in their spaceships. Like, hey, let's go cruise the universe for the day and then come back, right? That'd be dope. But it's one of those things that, I think everything, which is really sad, but when it comes to this kind of stuff, it all comes back to the politics of it all. Because ultimately, that's what this whole extraterrestrial thing is going to be about. It's going to be about the politics. Yeah. And I know we've been talking about this whole extraterrestrial thing for weeks now. It's been kicking up. It's on our minds, it's on everybody's minds. But regardless, it all does come back to this whole idea of dreams and how they could possibly relate to our reality and even these parallel universes.
Well, and was the past couple weeks nothing but a dream? Because as weird as things got for about a week and a half or so, we talked about last week, a lot of the stuff that we talked about on those episodes, it's just faded into Olivia.
Yeah, it's crazy, and that's how fast our news moves. Everybody moves so fast anymore. No one wants to stop and think about anything. And, even the whole train thing, that's dying off too. Mm-hmm. I've heard a couple things on NPR here and there about the chemicals, but it's very brief. It's 2-3 minutes of some news report about the chemicals and then boom, on to the next topic. And that's how the world runs. We're all fast paced. We don't want to take a moment to stop and breathe and think about or exist in the beauty of nature and what the world has to offer. We just want the next fix. Yeah. And so, for the record, quick sidetrack here. But I just saw an orb dart through your camera from your left to your right.
This way?
Yes.
Interesting.
It was weird. Yeah. I've never, in all these years that we've been doing the podcast via video, have ever seen that. That's interesting.
What's even more interesting is I didn't feel anything. Sarge didn't react. He's laying here with me. So
Weird. Anyway, so where do we go? What do we got? We wrapping this up?
Yeah, I think, I mean, without having a guest on or even having any theories that we were basing this off of, I think we were kind of basing it more off of our opinions and beliefs over finding certain stuff. But it's funny that we wanted to do this, and Shelly's been saying for at least the past 2 weeks that she feels that she's looking into an alternate reality. It really begs the question what we can believe about our dreams, and how much of it is just make believe and how much is something more.
Right. And so what I would like to put out there, because and for her too, if you tell her, or I'll just text her myself like, hey, I heard a story. But everyone who has these type of dreams, or especially if you're going into these alternate realities or what you think is like a 10th, whatever, we should be recording these in our notebooks and our journals and our diaries, because like communicate with other people about it. Because I think, and this is currently a theory, as is everything that we talk about, more or less, if after so much time, months, years, we start to share our journals with other people who also keep dream journals, we may start to find a lot of relatability between them and things that we are witnessing and seeing. And if that's the case, that can help support the idea that we are indeed moving in a direction as a whole into some other time dimension, whatever. And if not, then it doesn't change anything per se. It just lets us know that we are all on an individual path, and the universe is so large and the timeline is so, infinite, that we can literally go anywhere, and it doesn't change reality or current reality.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed the episode entitled In Our Dreams. Make sure you're tuning in to all the great shows that we have on United Public Radio Network. This has been a pre-recorded show for 107.7 FM New Orleans and United Public Radio Network. Until next week, folks, where you'll find us same time, same channel. My name is Justin. See you next time.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.